SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
Surf Excel Hygienic Clean කොරෝනා වෛරසය 99.9ක් විනාශ කරනවා. හොඳ වැඩවලට ඊට කොරෝනා වලට තිත.
Tonight, fishy business. Removal of gas odour from domestic cooking gas by suppliers is one of the key issues, says Presidential Gas Incidents Committee. How it's done. Former Prime Minister steps up to the plate on national issues during day 2 of the Samagi Janabalawege Parliament boycott. Get it right. Government rubbishes claims of India pulling the rug out from under China's Jaffna Island energy project. On the up, export earnings up to pre-pandemic levels while investments at $2 billion so far this year, says the BOI. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Tuesday the 7th of December 2021.
ඉසේ සම පෝෂණය කර ඉසුරු ඉවත් කරමින් නැවත ඇතිවීම වළකයි. Nava Clear Shampoo.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Mohammed Kekna. Now then, the Presidential Committee appointed to probe LP gas-related incidents in the country has underlined the lack of gas odour as the key issue that contributed to the current debacle. Also among other issues was the usage of substandard and expired regulators and hoses. Meanwhile, State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagiyawanna reiterated that strict action will be taken against those who are accountable for the LPG-related incidents over the last weeks.
The Presidential Committee of Experts appointed to investigate the LPG-related incidents in the country, as well as to provide recommendations to resolve the matter, issued a statement yesterday on their observations. The statement reads that within the timeline between the 1st of January this year until the 5th of December, a total of 458 LPG-related incidents have taken place in the country, with 430 of them have taken place since the 29th of November. From the total of 458 LPG-related incidents, 244 relates to gas leakages. The committee identifies the lack of ethyl mercaptan, which gives LPG the odour, as the main cause behind these incidents. The committee adds that the usage of substandard and expired regulators and hoses, as well as deteriorated gas cookers, have also contributed to the incidents, while calling the public to pay attention to these details. In a bid to put an end to these scarring events which have instilled fear in the public, State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagiyawanna explained the future course of action to ensure that the LPG imported to the country complies with the proper standards.
පෙරේදා සිට මින් ඉදිරියට ආනයනය කරනු ලබන සියලුම ගෑස් සමාගම් දෙකේම ගොඩබෑමට පෙර නැවතම ඒ අදාළ රජයේ නිලධාරීන්ගේ සමන්විත කමිටුව ගිහිල්ලා නියැදි ලබාගෙන කණජිත නීතිගත සංස්ථාවෙන් රසායනාගාර පරීක්ෂණයක් කරලා ඒ රසායනාගාර පරීක්ෂණයෙන් එළඹෙන තොරතුරු අනුව නිවැරදිව ප්‍රමිති අනුව එම ගෑස් තියෙනවා නම් පමණයි ඒ නැවෙන් ගෑස් බාගැනීමට පවා අවසර ලබා දෙන්න කටයුතු කරලා තිබෙනවා. විද්වත් කමිටුවක් විසින් අතිගරු ජනාධිපති මේ පිළිබඳව සොයා බලලා සති දෙකක් ඇතුළත වාර්තා ලබා දෙන්න කියන ඒ වගකීම ඒ කමිටුවට බාර දීලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා විශේෂයෙන්ම තව සතියක් ඇතුළත ඒ කමිටුවේ නිර්දේශයන් ඇතුළත් වාර්තාවක් අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා වෙත ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා. ඒ අනුව ජනාධිපතිතුමා විසින් අදාළ අමාත්‍යාංශ ඒ වගේම ආයතනවලට ඒ නිර්දේශ ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම සඳහා ඒ වගකීම් බාර දෙයි. ඒ අනුව ඒ වගකීම් ඉතාමත් ප්‍රමුඛතාවය ලබා දීලා අපි ඒ කාර්යභාරය ඉටු කරනවා.
Addressing the cabinet media briefing, the subject state minister added that the companies responsible for this debacle cannot wash their hands off the responsibility.
මෙම පෞද්ගලික සමාගම් දෙකම නිෂ්පාදන ක්‍රියාවලිය, ටෙන්ඩර් ක්‍රියාවලිය පවා අනයන ක්‍රියාවලිය පවා ඒ සිදුවලා තිබෙන ආකාරය දිහා බලපුවාම ගෑස් වල පාවිච්චි කරන අයගේ ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳව කිසිදු රැකවරණයක් ලැබිලා නැහැ කියන එකයි මගේ පෞද්ගලික මතය බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙන්නේ. ඒ සියලුම සමාගම් වලට මේ වගකීමෙන් ඈත් වෙන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ. ඒ ක්‍රියාත්මක නොකිරීම පිළිබඳව අපි වෙනමම පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතු දැන්ට ආරම්භ කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතු වලින් අනාවරණය වෙන ආකාරයට ඒ සමාගම් සඳහා ඒ වගකීම් පැහැර හැරීම පිළිබඳව කරුණු සනාථ වීමෙන් අනතුරුව අපි පාරිභෝගික අධිකාරියේ විදිහට ගත හැකි උපරිම නීතිමය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ඒ සමාගම් වලට විරුද්ධව ලබා ගැනීමටත් කටයුතු කරනවා.
State Minister Alagiyawanna went on to say that the issue had slipped under the radar for decades.
ජනවාරි මාසේ ඉඳන් මේ දක්වා මේ ප්‍රධාන කතාබහට ලක්වෙන්න පෙර ගෑස් භාවිතා කරලා මරණ 3ක් සිද්ධ වුණා. ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි සියලුම දෙනාම ඒ පිළිබඳව කතා කළේ නැහැ අතීතයේදී. මේක තමයි ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන්ම මේ වර්තමාන තත්ත්වය ඇතිවීමට හේතු. මම මේ හැම කරුණක්ම නිදහසට ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා නෙමෙයි. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට 2021 3.20 තලාතුවේ ගෑස් කාන්දුවක් කාන්තාවක් මිය ගිහිල්ලා තිබෙනවා. 2021 3.24 හසන්ත චතුර කුමාර මිය ගිහිල්ලා තිබෙනවා මරදානේ. වැලිකඩ 2021 9.24 ඒ සිද්ධ වෙලා තිබෙනවා කියලා රජයක වගකීම එහෙම සිද්ධ වෙලා තිබුණා දැන් සිද්ධ වුණාට කමක් නැහැ කියන එක ඒක වැළැක්වීම. මේක ශුන්‍ය බවට පත් කිරීමට තමයි රජයක් තිබෙන්නේ, රාජ්‍ය ආයතන තිබෙන්නේ. අපි මේ ඉලක්කයට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම යා යුතුව තිබෙනවා. උදාහරණයක් විදියට ගෑස් වල ප්‍රමිතිය සම්බන්ධව පුවත්පත් නිවේදනයක් දැම්මා සැප්තැම්බර් 16 වෙනිදා. මහජන අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න කියලා. මහජන අදහස් ලැබුණේ නැහැ. ඇයි හේතුව? මේ පිළිබඳව අවධානයක් කාගවත් තිබුණේ නැහැ. මේක තමයි තියෙන අඩුපාඩුව අපි සියලුම දෙනාගේ.
Meanwhile, the Samagi Jana Balawege today filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department, calling for an inquiry into the release of domestic LP gas cylinders to the market after changing the prescribed composition of gas. In addition, 10 national organizations also moved to lodge complaints with the CID today, requesting an investigation against the gas companies.
Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe questioned the government on the country's economic situation and chided the Ministry of Finance for its delay in providing economic data to Parliament today. Wickremesinghe also took aim at the Finance Minister's recent visit to India in the middle of a budget debate. In response, he was commended by the government benches for taking on the role of de facto opposition leader and taking up important issues in the absence of the main opposition, Samagi Jana Balawege.
ඒ වරප්‍රසාද මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. දැන් ගිය සතියේ ඊට ඉස්සෙල්ලා සතියේ අපිට පොරොන්දු වුණා එදා තිබුණ ලංකාවේ තිබුණ විදේශ විනිමය සංචිතිය බාර දෙන්න කියලා. කරුණු. අද වෙනකම් බාර දීලා නැහැ. මේ සභාවට දෙනවා කියලා එදාම කිව්වා. මං කිව්වා නෑ සවුන්ද දෙන්න කියලා. සවුන්දයක් නැහැ, අඟහරුවාදයක් නැහැ, බදාදයක් නැහැ, බ්‍රහස්පතින්ද. දැන් මේ කරුණු ටික ගිහින් කියලා තියෙනවා ඉන්දියාවට. ඒත් අපිට කියන්න බෑ. ඇයි මේ සභාවට දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? හිටපු මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපතිතුමා අර ඔන්ලයින් සාකච්ඡාව කිව්වා බිලියන 1.5යි කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ තත්ත්වය අපිට ඇත්ත වශයෙන් කියන්න. ඒක අපි දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
අපි සවිස්තර පිළිතුර මේ වෙනකොට සූදානම් කරනවා. ඒකම මේ අයවැය විවාදයේ අවසානයේදී ගරු මුදල් ඇමතුමා විසින් සමස්ත ආර්ථිකය පිළිබඳව පැහැදිලි විග්‍රහයකුත් ඒ අවශ්‍ය සංශෝධනත් ලබා දීම සිදු කරනවා.
අපි සභාව ඉල්ලුවාම එදා දෙන්න එකඟ වුණා. ඇයි ඒක දුන්නේ නැත්තේ? අනික මේක තව සමාලෝචනය වැඩක් නැහැ. දැන් ඔක්කොම සකස් කළා IMF එකට දීලා තියෙනවා ආටිකල් 4 කන්සල්ටේෂන් වලට. ඉතින් IMF එකට දෙන්න පුළුවන්, ඉන්දියානු ආණ්ඩුවට කියන්න පුළුවන්, මහා බැංකුවේ හිටපු අධිපතිතුමා කියනවා ඒත් මේ සභාවට තමයි මූල්‍ය පාලනය තියෙන්නේ. Public finances under this house. ඇත්ත වශයෙන් මේක වරප්‍රසාද කඩකිරීමක්. මේක දෙන එක යුතුයකමක්. මේ ඇමතුමා නෙමෙයි ඉන්න ඕනේ. මුදල් ඇමතුමා මෙතන ඉන්න ඕනේ. හැමදාම ඇවිල්ලා මේ කාරණාවට පිළිතුරු දෙන්න. මේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට මම දැකලා තියෙන මුදල් ඇමතුවරයෙක් නැති විවාදයක්.
Sorry to intervene. මුදල් ඇමතුමා විටින් විට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා ඊයේ තිතිය. What you are requesting, Finance Minister will accommodate as much as possible because he is busy also with the present situation. Now what you are requesting is that this information be available prior to the Finance Ministry votes. Okay. We will convey to the Minister.
නෑ මං අහන්නේ මේකයි. අපේ මේ මහා බැංකුවේ අධිපතිතුමාගේ රෝඩ් මැප් එක තියෙනවා නම් ඒ රෝඩ් මැප් එකේ කිව්වේ නෑ ඉන්දියාවට යන්න කියලා. ඊයේත් කියනවා ගිහින් දන ගහලා සල්ලි ඉල්ලන්නේ නෑ කියලා කාගේවත්. එහෙනම් ඉන්දියාවට ගිහින් මොකද්ද කරේ? ඉතින් අහන්නකෝ යාගේ ඇමතුමාගේ ඉන්දියාවට ගිහින් මොකද්ද කරේ කියලා. බුද්ධ ගයාව වඳින්න ගියාද? ආණ්ඩුවට වඳින්න ගියාද? ඒකයි අපි අහන්නේ. මේ රට මූණ දෙන මං හිතන්නේ උග්‍රම ආර්ථික ප්‍රශ්නේ. ජනතාව මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? ජනතාවට මේ පැත්තත් එපා වෙලා ඒ පැත්තත් එපා වෙලා. අපි ඔක්කොමටම බයින එක මතක තියාගන්න. අවුරුදු 40ට අඩු අය අපිව ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා. අවුරුදු 30ට තියෙන අපි කවුරු දිහාවත් බලන්නේවත් නැහැ. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ තියෙන විශ්වාසය නැති වුණොත් රටේ තියෙන ක්‍රමය කැඩෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මං හැම වෙලෙම කියලා තියෙන්නේ මේකට අපි අවුරුදු 20ක විතර යන්න පුළුවන් මූලික ප්‍රතිපත්ති අපි එකඟ වෙමු. ඒ ප්‍රතිපත්ති ඇතුලේ අපි මැතිවරණ තරඟ කරමු. ඒත් පුළුවන් පුළුවන් තැන්වල අපි එක තැනකට එමු. එච්චරයි මම කියන්නේ. අපේ තරුණ පරපුරට අනාගතයක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ.
කරු රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා කිව්වා එතුමාට යන්න පුළුවන් ඉවත් වෙලා කියලා. අපි කවුරුද එතුමාට ඉවත් වෙලා යන්න කියන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමාට පේනවනේ දැන් එළියට ගියපු අය කවුරුත් නැති නිසා දැන් ඔබතුමා තමයි විපක්ෂ නායකයෙක් ඉන්නේ. ඒ නිසා පොඩ්ඩක් උපදෙස් දීලා පාර්ලිමේන්තු ක්‍රමය පිළිබඳ අවබෝධයක් ඒ අයට ලබා දෙන්න කියන එකත් මම විශේෂයෙන් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී කියනවා. මොකද ඒක ඉතාම වැදගත්. මම හිතන්නේ සජය බෙට රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා තමයි හොඳම උපදෙස් දෙන්න මේ වෙලාවේ හිට වෙලා ඉන්නේ.
දැන් තියෙන්නේ මේ සභාව ඊළඟ දවස් කිහිපෙටම විපක්ෂය ගේන්න. ඒ නිසා අපි ඔබතුමායන් අහන්නේ කොමිටිය නම් කරන්න. ඊට පස්සේ අපි වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යමු. ඒ ඉල්ලීම ඉටු කළා දෙන්න. මට බෑ මේ විපක්ෂ වෙනුවෙන් කතා කරන්න. මට පුළුවන් මං වෙනුවෙන් කතා කරන්න විතරයි. ඒක ඉටු කරාම අපිට මෙයා එන්න ඕනේ. මමත් රට ගියේ නිසා ආයේ මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න.
ඊට වගමැත්තුමට අපි ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. ඉතින් එතුමා කිව්වා මේ කොමිටිය දාලා මේවා කිරුවොත් අනිත් අයත් සහභාගී වෙයි කියලා. හැබැයි මට දැන් දුරකථන ඇමතුමක් ආවා සජබේ මන්ත්‍රී කෙනෙක්ගෙන් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්මයා හොඳටම බය වෙලා සමහර විට ආදම කතානායකතුමා හම්බෙලා ආදම එන තත්ත්වයක් තියෙන්නේ ඔබතුමාගේ මේ පැමිණීම නිසා. ඊටත් වැඩිය බය වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ ඔබතුමා පිටරට ඉඳලා ඉක්මනින් පැමිණීම එතුමාගේ විපක්ෂ නායකකම නැති වෙයි කියලා එතුමා බය වෙලා තියෙනවා.
In addition, Wani District Ilankai Tamil Arasukachi parliamentarian Charles Nirmalanathan called for action to be taken against what he termed a grave injustice in relation to the exclusion of TNA MPs from the list of 33 opposition members submitted by the opposition leader to raise cut motions during the budget debate.
මම ඊයේ ලේකම්තුමාට කතා කරා මේ කට් මෝෂන් දාන්න 33 දෙනෙක්ගේ නම දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒ 33 දෙනාගේ නම ඇතුලේ TNA පක්ෂයේ කවුරුත් නම නැහැ. ඒකයි මම විපක්ෂ කාර්යාලයට දැන් ගිහලා ඇව්වා. ඒකට එහෙම දාලා නැහැ. දැන් JVP පක්ෂයේ 3 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඒ පක්ෂයේ දෙන්නෙක් දාලා තියෙනවා අර 33 දෙනාගේ නම ඇතුලේ. අපි TNA පක්ෂයේ තව 3 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඔක්කොම 13ක් ඉන්නවා. අර 13ක නම කුත්ම නැහැ ඒක ඇතුල් කරලා. දැන් ඒකට පක්ෂයේ තීන්දුවගේ වෙන කතාවක්. දැන් අද තියෙන්නේ ෆොරස්ට් වයිල්ඩ් දීවර ප්‍රශ්නේ අපි ප්‍රදේශයේ වැඩි තියෙනවා. දැන් අපි ප්‍රදේශයේ කැබිනට් මිනිස්ටර්ලා නැහැ. ඔබතුමාට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න ටික කතා කරන්න මෙතන තමයි.
We will see you shortly on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the government today rejected rumours that India's Adani Group is set to take over the energy project earmarked to be implemented in 3 islands in the north of the country after China withdrew from it. There was also assurance during the cabinet media briefing today that Sri Lanka-China ties have not soured despite what's happening in the background.
On the 1st of this month, the Chinese embassy in Colombo tweeted, quote, Sinosoa hybrid technology being suspended to build hybrid energy system in 3 northern islands due to security concern from a third party has inked a contract with Maldivian government on the 29th of November to establish solar power plants at 12 islands in the Maldives, unquote. There is also talk that the so-called security concerns were raised by India and that India's Adani Group is set to take over the energy projects which China was suspended from undertaking. It was put to the Cabinet co-spokesperson Dr. Ramesh Patirana whether the rumours concerning India are true and whether the Sri Lanka-China ties have suffered a setback owing to the fertilizer saga involving a Chinese fertilizer company.
ඉතාම පැහැදිලිවම එම ව්‍යාපෘති ඉන්දියානු සමාගමකට ලබා දීමට කිසිම තීන්දුවක් අරගෙන නැහැ. කියන තානාපතිතුමන් ඉතාම පැහැදිලිව අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කළ තිබෙනවා. පොහොර ගැටලුව සම්බන්ධයෙන් දෙරට අතර අන්‍යෝන්‍ය විශ්වාසයට මිත්‍රත්වයට හෝ තානාපති සම්බන්ධතාවට කිසිම ගැටලුවක් ඇති නොවන කාරණයක් බවත් එය වෙළඳ හා සම්බන්ධ ගැටලුවක් බවත් එම කාරණය පාර්ශ්විකව දැන් උසාවිය ඉදිරියේ නඩු කටයුත්තකුත් විභාගයට ගණනනවා. ඒ නිසා එහා සම්බන්ධ තීන්දුව අදාළ පාර්ශ්ව අතර ගනුදෙනුවක් හැටියට තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ. දෙරට අතර සම්බන්ධතාවලට කිසිම බාධාවක් නැහැ.
The cabinet spokesperson was also quizzed whether the government would take measures to make seating arrangements for opposition PMs who have supported the government so far to be seated in government benches in Parliament.
It's a decision of the Honourable Speaker of the Parliament. That matter had been raised, but yes, they supported the government during 20th Amendment and also subsequently in relation to budget and other places where votes were needed. But it's generally in one side of the Parliament, only 112 members can sit, 113 on the other side. So we are a government of 150 members.
In the meantime, the Cabinet has given the green light to issue national birth certificates with a unique identification number. Accordingly, the Sri Lanka identity number will be issued by the Department of Registrar General from the details obtained from the database of Department of Registration of Persons. The move is expected to make bureaucratic processes easier and efficient with the use of unique identification number. The Cabinet has also given the go-ahead for the proposal to provide around 1,750 hectares of lands in Mahaweli areas to selected investors on long-term lease for commercial agriculture projects aimed at national food and nutrition security and exports.
The chief suspect involved in the brutal killing of Priyantha Kumar in Pakistan has been arrested while heading to Rawalpindi. The Punjab police confirmed the arrest via a tweet. Meanwhile, there are also reports of the Sialkot business community coming together to ensure that Kumar's monthly salary is paid to his family. The government too has decided to give the family a sum of 2.5 million rupees.
Last Friday, Priyantha Kumara, a manager of an apparel factory in Sialkot of Pakistan, was brutally lynched by a mob. By yesterday, a total of 131 suspects had been arrested, including 26 who are considered to be main suspects in the crime. Then last evening, the Punjab police tweeted that the most wanted suspect in the lynching was arrested while heading to Rawalpindi. With the latest arrest, the number of suspects apprehended by Pakistan's law enforcement agencies rose to 132. Meanwhile, Cabinet co-spokesperson Dr. Ramesh Patirana was asked today whether the incident has soured relations with Pakistan.
There is no hindrance to the diplomatic relationship between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Actually, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Honorable Imran Khan, acted promptly to arrest the suspects. They have arrested about 130 suspects and they have been carrying out investigations. And also, government of Pakistan has promised to ensure that all the legal means would be enacted and punish the culprits or the wrongdoers in relation to untimely death of Mr. Priyantha Kumar.
In the meantime, the remains of late Priyantha Kumara, which arrived in the island last evening, were brought to the District General Hospital in Negombo for the post-mortem. Following the post-mortem, the remains were brought to his residence in Ganemulla at around 1:30 a.m. today. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's message of condolence was delivered by an official of the Presidential Secretariat today. Several ministers and state ministers as well as religious leaders also paid their last respects to late Priyantha Kumara. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers have given the go-ahead to grant 2.5 million rupees to the family of Kumara towards their welfare. The relevant sum will be paid from the Employees Welfare Fund of the Bureau of Foreign Employment. In the meantime, media reports have emerged quoting Pakistani PM Imran Khan that Priyantha Kumara's salary will be paid monthly to his family. The report says that the business community in Sialkot has collected $100,000 for the purpose.
With the Omicron variant surging across the world right now, the Health Ministry is attempting to get people to go out and get their booster shots in order to build up immunity levels. Deputy Director General of Health at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, revealed that getting a third shot would serve to maintain an optimum immunity level in face of the new variant.
The hot topic of the world right now is the spread of the Omicron variant, and for good reason. Almost 40 countries have confirmed Omicron infections. In UK, Health Minister Sajid Javid confirmed that there is community transmission of it in multiple regions of England. He told the British Parliament that there are Omicron cases in the UK which have no links to international travel. Fearing that the latest variant of concern will infiltrate their borders, the likes of Israel, Japan and Saudi Arabia banned entry for all international travellers. Meanwhile, some other countries, including Sri Lanka, closed borders for passengers from several African nations, including South Africa. Though the South African health system was lauded by the World Health Organization for being efficient in detecting the new variant, the South African president is angry at the treatment meted out to his country for being a global team player.
South African scientists discovered Omicron, the new variant. They immediately took on the responsibility of informing the world, the entire world, that a new variant has come through. And what is the result? The northern countries impose a ban to punish the excellence that comes from Africa. They basically say, we will not allow you to travel around. But lo and behold, Omicron is spreading all over the world, including in their own countries. And now you ask yourself, where is science? They've always said to us, base your decisions on science, But when the moment comes for them to be more scientific, they are not.
Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, the booster dose is being rolled out to frontline workers across the island. Further, people above the age of 60 in the western and southern provinces, as well as in the Anuradhapura and Ampara districts, are also eligible for the booster. Booster dose administration for over 60s in other parts of the country, however, is yet to be announced. With those above 20 years of age suffering from immunosuppressive conditions such as cancer and chronic kidney disease also qualifying for the booster, health authorities urge them to get it as soon as possible.
The third dose is recommended by the relevant expert committees basically to maintain the optimal level of immunity. The third dose of immunization is required especially for those who are really vulnerable. So we know that this vaccination will not 100% prevent the infection, but it will definitely protect you from type of complications, and probability of death will be reduced to a great extent if you are fully vaccinated. So therefore, we'll have to again request all the people who are eligible to get the third dose of vaccine should come and get the vaccine as early as possible. Then the next thing is, if the immunity is developed in a person, if in case they have got the infection, they will be shedding less viruses to the environment. Therefore, the possibility of spreading the disease also will be reduced to a great extent.
By last evening, a total of 994,929 persons had obtained the booster dose. It has taken just over a month to reach that number. As far as the general two-shot vaccine regime is concerned, 13,770,028 people had been fully vaccinated in the island by last evening.
In other local stories, operations at the SAPUGASKANDA oil refinery, which were temporarily suspended, resumed today. On the 15th of last month, Minister of Energy Uday Gammanpila announced that operations at the refinery will be halted for a maximum of 50 days in a bid to better manage the country's forex. The refinery, however, was only closed for 22 days. AdaDerana, the corporate social responsibility initiative of the TV Derana, has won the media award at the United Nations Volunteers Country Awards in recognition for its work in Sri Lanka. The ceremony was worked off in Colombo this evening. The UNV Sri Lanka presented 50 awards to persons and organisations that have contributed to the development efforts of the country through volunteerism. The event is held in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the UNV, 20th anniversary of the International Year of Volunteers, and the 10th anniversary of V Awards and V Force. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Director of the Hydromini Group, Arun Hydromini, is confident that the $8 billion goal set for Sri Lankan apparel exports by 2025 is achievable, provided that the hiccups faced by the country's apparel sector are rectified. He made these comments while addressing the second day of the Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2021 today.
The Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2021, organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, kicked off its second day today. 2 sessions were conducted today, bringing together the country's best and most successful business minds.
2020 obviously had a lot of disruption and a decline in overall apparel consumption and exports. But there are some positive headwinds. And by mid-2021, in certain geographies, especially in markets where there's high vaccination rates, there has been a return to growth. There's also been revenge spending and a lot of online spending has been documented in China. So that is one positive headwind that we have. Because of that, the most recent McKinsey figures show that by the end of this year, our industry should be back to 2019 levels in terms of overall sales. The forecast for 2022 is for growth of between 5 to 8%. One other area affecting our sector has been the ongoing global supply chain crisis. This has now led to much higher freight rates, higher lead times for freight coming especially from the Far East, and now a large inflation in the prices of materials, especially many of the materials used within the apparel sector. In the context of this, there is going to be inflation that's going to be passed on to the consumer for 2022 onwards. onwards. In 2019, apparel sector achieved exports of $5.3 billion. But if you look at the overall global apparel exports, it's over $400 billion. So when we mention our goal to achieve $8 billion of exports by 2025, we are just over 1% of the total apparel market share. So we're confident that if we can execute some of our strategies, that we can achieve this $8 billion. One key area that has got us to the $5.3 billion has been the involvement of our industry. From contract manufacturers, we now work very closely with our customers and our suppliers so we can provide end-to-end solutions to our customer base. The SME sector will remain very important, a big part of our strategy to grow to the $8 billion. One other area which is important is the development of our local supply chain. Only approximately 50% of the apparel exports to the EU qualified for full GSP plus tariff concessions. And the reason for that is the rules of origin criteria. The market that is growing the fastest is the active and the lounge apparel, and that requires a lot of materials that are traditionally been manufactured in the Far East, especially China, Taiwan. And because of that, the initiative by the government and our industry to encourage more investment in the local fabric supply chain is crucial to our strategy.
The Board of Investment has reported an increase in export earnings and promising foreign direct investment levels for this year, beating pre-pandemic 2019 levels. So far up to November, it has inked $2 billion in investment for 117 new projects, of which $980 million remain from foreign investments.
The Board of Investment has announced the total export earnings recorded for the year by enterprises under its purview have surpassed 2019 values, the last year of pre-pandemic growth on record. Of the 23 export sectors listed under the BOI, 15 have recorded growth compared to 2019 levels. Most notably, industries such as rubber, textiles and fabrics, electronics, food processing, industrial chemicals, petroleum, coal and plastic, transport equipment and waste all recorded double-digit growth compared to 2019. Apparel, the largest contributor to export earnings in the BOI portfolio, was just under 7% shy of reaching its 2019 value, but showed double-digit growth against 2020. In the meantime, the BOI also revealed that as of November 2021, it had signed $2 billion in investment approvals. This included $760 million during the first half of 2021 alone, of which $400 million was through foreign direct investments, in contrast to 2019, where 113 new projects were approved and added to the pipeline to the value of $1.1 billion. In 2020, despite the pandemic and slowdown in investment decisions, 128 projects were approved valued at $2.2 billion, of which the foreign investment component was $1.6 billion. In 2021, however, the $2 billion in investment consists of 117 new projects, of which $980 million is the foreign investment component.
Sri Lankan shares, meanwhile, ended higher today at the Colombo Bourse, rising for a second straight session as heavyweight industrial stocks gained. The CSE All Share Price Index added 0.49% to end at 11,088.17 points, while the S&P SL20 gained 0.44% to close at 3,964 points. With that, here's Dimantha Matthew with a brief report on today's market performance.
Today we saw the market in the green territory again, with the index being up by about 53 points. Altogether, what we are seeing is that the volatility that was there in the market is slowly subsiding and the market moving back into the green territory and sort of moving into an upward trend. So overall, we saw the retail favorite counters getting activated again. Top turnover is again the transportation sector counters, while the capital goods is also dominating in the market. However, there is selective selling pressure on some of the key counters that were in the top turnover list over the last couple of days, but then we are seeing an overall positive sentiment in the market today. If you look at the construction and building material segment, we saw strong healthy buying interest coming into the sector, especially the tile sector seems to be on the top of the list for the investors.
The Sri Lankan rupee continued its run at 202.99 cents against the US dollar today as well. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee fared against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.